Okay, great. Well, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for having us here to talk a little bit about the Rosebud Hospital project that the tribe has been working on. My name is Elliot Milholland. I'm a lawyer with the law firm of Hobbs, Strauss, Dean & Walker in Washington, D.C. We are a firm that was established just a little over 40 years ago to provide legal services to tribal governments and tribal organizations. That's all we do. We've been representing tribes since then, and our founding partners were instrumental in getting the Indian Self-Determination Act, which is one of the laws that tribes can use to take over health facilities like the Rosebud Sioux Hospital, enacted into law. I've been kind of on the project not as long as the whole team has been working. Dan Prue is kind of the lead for this project. And has assembled a great team of both consultants and folks at the tribe to work on to do all the kind of homework and background research that needs to be done in order for the tribe to be in a position to decide whether to take over the Rosebud Hospital. So we are working very closely with Tribal Health Alliance, which is a consulting group that has the expertise in terms of operating a hospital. Russ Peterson is here with me today from Tribal Health Alliance. Russ Peterson is a veteran of the Indian Health Service and has worked in facilities, both IHS facilities across the country, and has a real depth of knowledge, both on the facility side and the operations and engineering side, but also on the service delivery side of the house. And he has been doing a lot of the research with the hospital itself to gather the information the tribe needs to be able to make decisions regarding the hospital. Dan operates a team of folks, as I said, including the Rosebud, including the hospital, as well as a number of others, groups. So there's a group, there are different work groups that have been established that meet on a regular basis. We've been meeting over the course of the summer to work on things like human resources, get assessments of the existing operations at the IHS hospital. And as part of that work, the tribe has created a chartered entity, which is a separate arm of the tribal government that is operated by a board. That board is made up of 9 different members. The charter has created what's called the Sichangu Oyate Health System, and it consists of 9 board members who have the independent authority to set policies and procedures that would be required to operate the Rosebud Sioux Tribe Hospital. In addition, all the tribe's existing health functions have been moved underneath this charter. So there are 9 members on the board, 5 of whom have to have a medicine, healthcare, or public health background. There are 2 at-large members. One is the president of the Rosebud Sioux Tribe, and the other is the chair or the vice chair of the Tribal Council Health Board. The board has been seated. The council has elected the first membership of the board, and the members are Dr. Don Warren, Dr. Daryl Plumage, Dr. Allison Kelleher, Mr. Mark Merkwan, Mr. Bill Snyder, who's the former South Dakota Medicaid director, and Dr. Monty Bechtold. Those are the kind of health provider board members. And then, of course, Scott Herman is the health board chair, Ms. Lisa Whitepipe is the other at-large member, as well as Skyla Fastforce. That rounds out the membership of the health board. So, as I said, we've been meeting on a regular basis, doing kind of the background work that is involved in the assumption of a hospital. So a hospital is a big enterprise. Taking over a hospital is not an enterprise to be taken lightly. And there's a lot of background work that needs to be done before entering into actual negotiations. The council, in addition to seating the board, has directed the board to submit a proposal to the Indian Health Service by October 1st of this year. And we are assessing what that proposal might look like, whether it be under Title I of the Indian Self-Determination Act. Right now, you have 638 some programs. And so if we followed that process, it would be expanding those programs to include the hospital or pursuing self-governance under Title V, under our Title V compact with the IHS. And we are working with the IHS to determine if that is a possibility at this time for the Rosebud Sioux tribe. So as of right now, we have not yet formally submitted a proposal. We've done work, again, a lot of the background work to get information from the IHS about what its current staffing looks like, what its staffing needs are, what its budget is, where it's getting its resources, where we might get additional resources in the future. Tribes, when they take over a program, have options to get additional funding that the IHS does not have in things like kind of rental for facilities in the past. To assure the IHS that when a tribe takes over the program, there is the option for, and what tribes normally do, is maintain the employees at the facility. And so the president has communicated to the Indian Health Service that any employee who qualifies would be eligible to stay on, either as an IHS employee and maintain their current levels of coverage and benefits, or move over as a tribal direct hire. And the tribe is, still working on kind of what that kind of employment and benefits package would look like for the tribal direct hire option. But those would be the two options for the folks who are, who live in the community and who work at the hospital. The idea is that the tribe would bring in, some new management, and the board would maybe provide some new direction, but the employees would stay on and help with that transition. But maybe with that, I can turn it over to Russ for a few words.
Sure, thanks, Elliot. Thanks, Dan, for inviting us to today's Q&A. Like Elliot said, I've got about 40 years of experience with IHS, working facilities and doing a lot of work under Title I and Title V. So what I've been doing with Tribal Alliance, we've been kind of coordinating the meetings that the steering group's having. We're coordinating work groups that we set aside, and we've made several requests to the Great Plains area for data for things like what's Rosebud's tribal shares, what's available, what funding's available to them, what are the users, what's the user pop, what's their operating budgets, what kind of third-party revenue do they have. So we've probably gathered well over 100 pieces of data that we continue to analyze, and as we meet and discuss options, we then make new requests to them. So it's been a great project. So I think we're here to help answer any questions that anyone has on this process. It's up to you, Dan.
Okay, yeah, our first question here.
I got a question for you. I just want to say to the Sioux people, I wish there was a lot more people here because this is a very interesting topic for all the people on the reservation, because some of us that tribal members don't believe that the Rosebud Sioux tribe is capable of 638ing the hospital. There is a lot of different issues that a lot of the people don't know about yet, and you guys are, kind of give a brief explanation on, what you guys are doing, and I think a lot more people need to get a better understanding because, this council and this administration, they work for the people. We're the ones that hold it, each and every one of them inside of this chambers here. So our vote counts. So what this council should have did is brought it back to the people first and got a vote from the people to decide whether it is best for this tribe to 638 the IHS facility. Because we as tribal members are the ones that use that facility. We don't go nowhere else. We stay right here. So, I think the best thing, I don't know how long it will take for you guys, even if the tribe was supposed to 638 it, but you know what? The most important thing my question is, we need to go back to the people and ask the people if they want it. In each community, we have 20 communities that everybody has a voice. And our voices need to be heard. Not just by this chamber making decisions for all of the people across the reservation. Our voices need to be heard to decide whether we want it or not. It might be a good deal. We don't know. At the end of it, at the end of everything, I don't know what the timeline is that you guys are trying to focus on, of trying to get the tribe to get this to a 638 contract, but the timeline for us is to the people. That's where it should go, to the people first. The council should have took it to the people and then took it to you guys to have you guys do all your research and to see if they're capable of doing it. Because in this chambers, you never know what's going to happen in this chambers. Who's going to be up there sitting in that top seat? Because every election, people change. Some council representatives might not even want it. Our tribal president might not want it. Our vice president might not want it. So when the election comes around, we might be going back to square one and saying, okay, well, let's put it on hold until we get a referendum vote from the people to decide what they want. And I appreciate everything that you guys are doing to help the tribe, but, let's let the people decide what they want first. That's the best option for the Sioux Nation, is the people. And, I don't know how many other hospitals you guys were involved in, 630-80. Maybe you guys did a lot of them, maybe, I don't know. But, this is the people's facility. Let the people decide how they want to do it. And, and if they say they want it, then we go from there. Like I said, we'll go right back to square one. But, I appreciate everything that you guys are doing, and thank you for being here today.
Elliot, I don't know if that's a question for you guys to address, so I'll take it.
Ultimately, I think it's, I'll just add these comments. So thank you very much for those comments. I think that every successful 638 program has the support of the community behind it. And a lot of that has to do with, the community helping to make priorities, and for making a vision of what can be, or how things could change. One of the processes in terms of doing this work is that, in taking over a hospital, you need to understand exactly why the operations are the way they are today. And that's a lot of the work that Russ is doing, the analysis, to really know what you're getting into. What kind of is it like, what exactly are you buying, right? So when you take it over, you can have a clear path and have a full understanding of what you'd want to change and how you would improve things by taking it over. And so that's part of that homework that these work groups are doing right now, is getting a fuller, better understanding, because from the outside looking in, it's very hard to find it. It's very hard to understand that. This process allows you to kind of peer under the hood a bit and see exactly, how things are working or not working, and to make assessments as to how, you could fix them. And so that kind of that information, is something that obviously this kind of a forum, this kind of a Q&A is designed to do, to try to maybe answer some questions about what we found already, and what the planning might be for the future.
So just to add to that conversation, our job is on the back end. All we did is we came in after the council made that decision to move forward. So we're just tasked to follow their orders.
Yeah.
And right now, from what I know, I see we have the capable people in place to assume control. Um, One of the things that we wanted to sell is that we're not there to remove jobs. We want to keep the hospital intact and let it operate as is. What we're trying to do is when we 638, gives us more flexibility to try to go and get like additional monies and programs and stuff like that. For example, one of the things Elliot has said before is that if some rich guy wanted to donate $1 million to IHS, to our hospital, we can't accept it. But now, if we 638 and they want to donate $1 million for us, we can take it and use it. So those are the kind of things that are flexible with that. The other thing is that Chickasaw Nation, San Carlos, Gila River, those tribes, there's a lot of them that have done it and are being successful. And it's going to be, stumbling blocks for, San Carlos is in a rural area, down patchy rural area. Gila River is right there by Phoenix.
Yeah,
So they've got access to resources. San Carlos doesn't.
Yeah.
But they're successful.
Yeah.
Chickasaw Nation is one of those ones, again, they're right next to populated area where they can get those resources. So, but to me, one of the most important things is the money.
Yeah.
Being able to try to get money and then bring those resources in. That's all that's the biggest thing we're up against. And I think that, in my opinion, that we can put.
Yeah. But sometimes you have to look at, is who's going to manage, millions and millions of dollars for all the tribal members, who's going to pay those bills for those tribal members, who's going to make sure they get paid. That's the thing,
And that's what that charter, what we did, and Gila River and San Carlos and Chickasaw Nations and all the others, all set up their organization independent from the tribe, and this one is too.
Oh, I see.
So they're gonna make sure that they're gonna have control of the cash, the money, and accounts and so forth, and they're gonna pay all the bills separate from the tribe.
Oh, great. Maybe that's a good option, so the tribe won't see how much dollars are going into a certain account or something.
Right.
Because if you think about it, there's a lot of people that go referred out. When they come back, they have a $90,000 bill.
Right.
Sometimes it takes a while for it to get paid, but is there the process of it? Is it going to be, they're going to able to pay soon as they come in with their bill? There's a lot of questions out there that people don't know yet.
Right.
And the answers need to be told to people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because maybe a lot of people are doubting it. Because like myself, because we live here, so we know what goes on here. That's the thing.
Absolutely.
So but
my nephew was in the same boat. He broke his hip in a motorcycle accident. He came in here and took forever. He got a $200,000 bill. Still trying to figure out what to do. But in this situation, the way
because to get everybody in place, it's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
So is it further down the road? How many? 24 months, 48 months? Do you guys kind of figure that in? How much timeline it's going to be for if the tribe actually took over?
Right. So, Elliot, you want to address that timeline question?
Yeah, well, there's two different timelines. One is the legal timeline, which is pretty short and pretty simple. If you're making a proposal under Title I, you submit a proposal to the IHS. Once they receive it, a 90-day clock starts. And the IHS has 90 days from the time you submit the proposal to approve or deny the proposal. As a practical matter, the tribe can extend that timeline, and in all these negotiations usually do. But that's just the negotiation timeline, the legal timeline. If you're pursuing under Title V, you submit a proposal. There is no initial timeline until you make what's called a final offer to the Indian Health Service. If there's an impasse or kind of a stumbling in the negotiations, then they have 45 days to say yes or no. But they can only decline for certain specific reasons, much narrower reasons. But as a practical matter, these operations, you know, and these assumptions take much more time than that, because as you correctly note, you know, administering a hospital is not, you know, it's not a simple task, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done. So you make sure you have everything in place. You have all the provider agreements in place. You have all of the agreements with the employees in place. Everybody knows what their roles are going to be, and you know how services are going to be delivered on day one. So a lot of homework has to go into place in terms of those transitions. And from that practical standpoint, I maybe transfer it over to Russ to discuss as well. And we may also say a few words about PRC, because we're talking about purchase preferred care as being a big component, and you know, not working all that well right now. That's one of the things that if a tribe takes over, they can kind of allocate resources. That's the choice of the board would be, if they wanted to, they could hire more folks and reallocate resources to purchase preferred care, so that bills would get paid, you know, more quickly and on a more timely basis. That's something that a number of tribes that have taken over these projects have put additional resources into, both purchase preferred care and also third-party resources and billing, to kind of make the revenue cycles work a little bit more smoothly. But Russ, do you want to add anything to that?
I think you said it perfect. It's the timeline is when the tribe's ready for it. That's our whole goal, is to find out as much information as we can and make sure we have the right leadership team in place to take it over and operate it. Because once we do that, then once we're ready and comfortable with that, then the timelines kick in with the government. So we're making progress on getting those key elements done and looking at those right now.
Short answer, it could be 6 months or a year.
Yeah.
Shall do you have any phone questions? Not yet? You have a question? No.
I have some questions.
The camera.
Turn the camera over there to me. As far as your operations go, will that include every department in the hospital, like our surgery departments and our OB department? Will those be functional? That would greatly cut down.
Can you hear us now?
Yep. Did you hear the question?
I think the question was about, and I'm not sure if we got the entire question, but I think the question was, if I understand it correctly, would the plan be to take over all of the tribe's programs, all of the hospital's programs, even those that maybe, you know, have not been staffed, you know, as well as we'd like right now? And I think, yes, that's the intention. But part of that process is kind of assessing what programs the hospital is providing and how, you know, the new leadership team might improve those processes. Russ?
Yeah, I'll just add that there is a work group. One of the work groups is related to patient services, and they have identified all the current services are being provided, and then they've identified additional services that they would like to bring online once they take over. And one of those is that they're looking at is OB and some surgery. It'll take time, but those are on the priority list to bring some of those services back once the tribe takes over, and can financially run it at that point. But they are looking at those issues.
Yeah, I think usually in these transitions, there's a transition of leadership from this tribal organization, the board, from the IHS to the board. And then there's usually kind of a phased approach in terms of bringing on new services. The initial piece is you want to maintain services, and you want to maintain, good access, good quality services. but then add in other services and expand the provision of services over time.
Can I ask a question?
And
Go ahead, Pete.
You
Oh, and I was also wondering about current staffing. Are you're talking about retention of the staff that's there currently? Does that include the housing area? Or will that be turned over to the tribe and be changed?
I'm sorry, I did not quite pick up on
The question, Elliot, the question is about the current staffing. Will all the current staffing be retained, including the housing and the housing staff?
Quarter staff, right. I had not looked at the quarters piece, but I mean, I don't know that would change. Russ? I mean, I haven't heard any discussion about that.
No, I think, well, all of the staffing, the intent of the tribe right now is to retain all of the staff under what's an IPA or an MOA. So the intent is to keep all the staff and just have them work for the tribe, but they'd still be federal employees. We've been discussing the whole issue of quarters. I don't think a final decision has been made whether lots of incentive packages that several tribes use to hire physicians and nurses and also to retain them. So I think that's one of the key advantages of a tribal program running the contract.
What you're telling me is there's people out there waiting to see if the tribe takes over so they can come to work for us.
I'm not saying that, but there's people out there that are always looking for better opportunities. And if you can make that opportunity better for them, you can probably entice them to come out and work.
Is the government still going to give us the same amount of money that they give IHS right now, or is that going to dry up?
No, the negotiation would be that the government is required to give you the same amount of money the IHS gets right now.
Is it going to stay the same, or is it going to go with inflation?
It will go up with inflation. It will go up as Congress appropriates more money. You get more money.
And then I think we can address third-party revenue like Medicaid, because I'm not sure, Dan, you could probably address it, but I'm not sure how efficient IHS has been at doing third-party collections. But if the tribe takes it over and is very efficient, they can increase that revenue source. Plus, South Dakota just expanded Medicaid as far on July 1st, I believe. So there's a potential for a lot additional funding there.
Yeah, and there's also the contract support costs. So you get your IHS money that is spent there, that the IHS spends there at the facility, but you can also take over funding that the IHS has at the area office and at headquarters. If they're not using that to help out the Rosebud program, you can take those dollars too. And then in addition, in support of your contract, you get kind of an administrative costs, which basically gives you the same amount of money the IHS would be spending administratively to administer the program at area and headquarters. And those are called indirect contract support costs. And that can be another 20 or 30% in funding.
Okay, so what you're saying is we should be comfortable, the resources are still there, and going to be there, and will continue to be there, and that the qualified manpower is out there. We just have to go seek it, right?
That's right. I mean, there's not a pool of people anxiously waiting to go work for this particular facility. I don't think we can say that, but the tribe would have a lot more flexibility. They're not limited by the IHS pay scales, for example. And that's what tribes do. They have more flexibility in terms of, working hours and salary packages than the IHS does.
Are you guys interested in putting on a public hearing so people can hear this?
We do whatever the council wants us to do.
Okay.
They want us to do it. That's why we're here. They asked us to put on this Q&A.
Yeah. Just wondering if you guys are willing to take it to the people. What they gotta say.
They asked us to go out to Antelope, so we went out there too.
How'd that turn out?
Got a bus tube.